again, it's time to take a look at Saturday's front pages. Joining me this morning, the journalist Thomas Copeland and the broadcaster Vidisha Thomas. Vidisha, hello again at our final hour. So let's start with the FT. Thomas, what are they saying? A criminal investigation into what happened at P&O?
That's right. The last time I was on Sky, actually, was just a few days after this incident initially occurred, and we were consulting, speculating as to whether criminal proceedings would transpire. It now looks like they have or will do. The Insolvency Service confirming that it has, quote, commenced formal criminal and civil investigations into the dismissal. So this was sacking 800 staff just over around a month ago with little to no notice, and that's caused a huge uproar across the UK. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, confirming what was speculated at the time, which is that it is a criminal offence not to alert the relevant authorities about the dismissals, and that could lead to an unlimited fine. The hiccup right now is about maritime law. So P&O ships are actually not registered in the UK. They're registered in a number of the other places, particularly Cyprus, I understand. And the question for the government and for those pursuing this potential civil and criminal cases at the moment is whether UK domestic law can apply across maritime law when you have ships who are registered in other parts of the UK. As if that wasn't bad enough, other parts of the world, I should say, as if that wasn't bad enough for P&O. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, also reported in this FT article, writing to the Insolvency Service, requesting that the Insolvency Service disqualify P&O's chief executive, saying that he is, quote, unfit to lead a British company. That's after the chief executive appeared in front of a parliamentary select committee and essentially admitted to breaking the law by not consulting with unions before the dismissals.
Because they didn't break the law in actually sacking the people because they were out at sea. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so the jury's still out exactly what, but what the chief executive did admit to was that there is a legal obligation, as I understand it, to consult with unions, but that's that will be a civil breach rather than a criminal one, and he admitted to that. At least the FT is reporting that this morning. He admitted to failing to abide by that civil obligation to Parliament when he appeared before the Select Committee in the last number of weeks. Now, the lawyers will work out all the legal ramifications about all of this. The reputational damage to P&O is immense. Can P&O recover from this in terms of their image in the eyes of the public? Can its leadership recover from this in terms of their image in the eyes of the public? Will it be the case that in a month or 2 months' time, the public will be jumping back on P&O ferries when they need to and have completely forgotten about it? The jury is still out. My feeling is that the public will remember this. It was such an almost inhumane way of dealing with staff that it will linger in the public memory for an extended period of time. But we'll need to wait and see whether that has an impact on P&O's business model going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Vidisha, let's talk about Mariupol. Obviously, something that we're talking about here all morning. So many, thousands and thousands of people still trapped in this city. Guardian, page 12, saying 2,000 have reached safety, but there could be more than 100,000 people still trapped there.
Yes, and your emphasis is absolutely right. The first line of this article seems to be a good news story about 2,000 civilians who've been aided in getting away from the southeastern coastal city thanks to a convoy of 42 buses assisted by the International Red Cross. But there are up to 170,000 civilians trapped in the region. And overall, we're 5 weeks into this invasion. It's an invasion of army against people, against civilians. It's not army versus army in a prearranged conflict. And 5 million Ukrainians have fled the country. So what we're seeing now is a war situation which is stepping out day by day in a way that is very close to home for other Europeans. I mean, for me, the refugee crisis has actually been going on since 2012, not 2022. But this is exactly how invasions, occupations, and wars happen. What we're seeing is that Russia, even regarding Mariupol, is not letting in aid convoys or any kind of assistance. They're also bleeding their occupied regions of food, water, and medical supplies, and there is no guarantee that any of these assurances of ceasefires or humanitarian corridors are indeed going to be honored. So many people mistrust the Russian forces because, of course, they mistrust the Russian government, and I don't think that mistrust is misplaced. So just because 2,000 civilians were aided in getting out doesn't mean to say that there isn't a massive humanitarian crisis and toll in the region.
They've just announced a couple of more corridors. The deputy PM in Ukraine. So let's hope some more people get out of there today. Now let's move to what is it? The front of the Telegraph? No, it's the Express. Sorry, page 2, Thomas. It's interesting. It feels like a lifetime ago we were discussing Partygate, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, the crisis in Ukraine and the invasion of Ukraine has rather deprioritised this issue in the eyes of the public, and has certainly given Boris Johnson a lifeline in terms of his premiership. That doesn't make it any less of an important issue when it comes to issues of, accountability of leadership and transparency. Partygate's back in the news here in the Express. Whitehall officials who attended a leaving party, a drinks party for a colleague, have received their £50 fines. Those are the first of the fixed penalty notices that have been sent to staff, arriving yesterday via email. We're told, at least in the Express anyway, that it was essentially given out to junior civil servants at this stage, that we don't believe that they were given out to the likes of Boris Johnson or Simon Case, or those in senior leadership in Number 10 or Whitehall. Now, all of that is speculation because the way that the system works at the moment is that the police, according to Kit Malthouse, do not routinely release the names of those people who have been issued with fixed penalty notices. Now, of course, this seems to me not to be, a routine incident. It seems to be fairly clear and central to issues of accountability and transparency that if, for example, the Prime Minister or those running Number 10 or Whitehall were issued with fixed penalty notice for breaking a lockdown that they themselves had put into place, that seems like the kind of thing that the public has a right and should have an expectation to know about. So, this issue's been deprioritized, yes, because of Ukraine. That doesn't mean that it's not very important that people have an understanding of the way in which they're being led. And also, people don't care about junior civil servants is one thing. I think most of them are happy that those names don't go out into the media. But if it is the case that you've got senior leadership in Number 10 and Whitehall, then that's the thing that I believe anyway the public has a right to know about.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thomas and Badisha, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Well, still to come on Sky News. These are pictures from Malta, and that is the Pope arriving on the Mediterranean island. That is an ITA aircraft. The Pope got onto it. He didn't walk up the stairs. He actually took a wheelchair lift, showing that he's suffering with those inflamed knees that he's been suffering with recently. Now, this is a pandemic-delayed weekend visit that he's going on, and the Pope is aiming to draw attention to Europe's migration challenge. Interesting, that, isn't it? Only obviously becoming more stark because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and he's going to call on people to take in more refugees, not only from Europe, but also from Libya, interestingly enough. We'll be back in a moment.